Good day, beloved. In the last trumpet, we saw the heraldry led by Odoacer conquer the western part of the Roman Empire. Now we will look at the fifth trumpet, or the first woe. Subscribe to my channel for more Bible-based content and click on that bell icon so you do not miss part 6. Let's begin. There was a bunch of information that we are needing to cover right here. So let's start with the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verses 1 through 11. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and upon them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And the torment was as the torment of a scorpion, when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, and they had hair as the hair of women. And their teeth were as the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings were as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. There was a lot of information here that we need to break down. We see here in verse 1, a star fell from heaven, and he was given the key to the bottomless pit. We know that a star represents an angel or messenger. What angel fell from heaven? It was Satan. So Satan was given this key to the bottomless pit. The Greek word for bottomless pit is abyssos, which is abyss or the deep or a place of darkness. Let's read the book of Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the abyssos, or bottomless pit. And this trumpet, the abyssos, is used to represent the uninhabited deserts of Arabia, the land from which Islam spread. The Arabian deserts were a desolate, uninhabited wilderness. This is what the book of Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 6 says about that. Neither said they, Where is the Lord that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passeth through, and where no man dwelt. Mount Sinai was in Arabia. At the time of Islam's rise, there were 2 superpowers to stop its progress, Eastern Rome and the Persian Empire. For Islam to expand, these powers needed taken out of the way. Satan, using the key or power granted him, caused the Roman and Persian empires to war with each other, severely weakening both sides. This opened the way for Islam to spread from Arabia. Perhaps they would have been crushed if the superpowers had not recently been at war with each other, and if they had known their opponents. The Persian War ended in AD 628. 5 years later, the cloud of Saracenic or Arab invasion rode northward from the Arabian deserts. Persia and Byzantium, like Egypt, were quite unable to resist the attacks of the Arabs, for the two empires had spent most of the previous century locked in debilitating wars of attrition. Islam originated in AD 610 through 612 with Muhammad, a merchant living in the Arabian city of Mecca. Muhammad believed that the angel Gabriel had appeared to him and given him instructions. These became the Quran, the Muslim Bible. Muhammad's fundamental conviction was that there was only one God, Allah, who is identified as the God of Abraham. Muhammad taught that God has many prophets, including Noah, Abraham, and even Jesus, but that Muhammad was the last and most important. Some of the Quran's teachings are good. Others speak in favor of jihad or holy wars. The Quran has promised all a good reward, but far richer in the recompense of those who fight for him. Allah loves those who fight for his cause. Today, more than 1 billion people are Islamic, considering its influence throughout history. In the part it is playing today, it is no surprise to see it described in Bible prophecy. After the year 612 AD, Muhammad sought to propagate his religion with all his might. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. When it refers to smoke, there is always affliction and destruction, and as we are seeing here, there is in fact destruction and affliction against the eastern part of the Roman Empire. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Locusts are migratory grasshoppers. Let's read the book of Judges chapter 6 and verse 5. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. For both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. Friends, if you read the context of this chapter, who came as grasshoppers? The Midianites. And where did they and the Amalekites reside in? In Saudi Arabia. Isn't that interesting? And since we are talking about this plague of locusts destroying the Eastern Roman Empire, which, by the way, comes from the east, remember there was a plague of locusts that came down onto Egypt too, which also came from the east, Saudi Arabia. But these locusts are in fact men that came from Saudi Arabia to destroy an apostate nation. The inhabitants of Syria have remarked that locusts come constantly from the desert of Arabia. The swarms of these insects darken the air and appear at a distance like clouds of smoke. So what does the Bible say about scorpions? Let's read the book of Ezekiel chapter 2 and verse 6. And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words. Through briars and thorns be with thee, and thou dost dwell among scorpions. Be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. They are rebels against the truth. Inspired by Muhammad's laws and teachings, the smoke which darkened the truth of Christ, the light of the world. The Saracen cavalry, like locusts, swarmed out of the Arabian desert, afflicting and conquering Persia, Syria, Egypt, North Africa, and part of Spain. Islam even entered France, intending to conquer all of Europe, but they were stopped at the Battle of Tours. Had Islam won, Europe and the US would probably now be Islamic. Literal locusts swarm in the very same area Islam once overran and possessed. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Now we have been through these in recent videos, but this is interesting because during this time of the Dark Ages, there was a group of people called the Waldensians who were in the mountains hiding at this time. They would memorize scripture and stitch them into their clothes to give the gospel to people. They could not carry a Bible with them because they'd be in trouble, and also they kept the Sabbath. But while Islam was trying to conquer as they were getting closer to the Waldensi territory, something made them turn away and go a different direction. God protected them. Infidels who rejected the Christian religion and also all idolaters, they forced to receive the Mohammedan religion, Islam, upon pain of death. But Jews and Christians who had their Bibles and their religion, they left to the enjoyment of them upon their paying large sums which they exacted. But where the payment of such sums was refused, they must either embrace the new religion or die. The warriors of Islam were commanded to tolerate Sabbath-keeping Christians, green things, and to hurt those without the seal of God. The following indicates that a certain class, possibly shaven Sunday-keeping monks, were destroyed by Islam. Abu Bakr, Muhammad's successor, is said to have given the following command to his troops prepared to conquer Syria in AD 623. When you fight the battles of the Lord, acquit yourselves like men, without turning your backs, but let not your victory be stained with the blood of women and children. Destroy no palm trees, nor burn any fields of corn. Cut down no fruit trees, nor do any mischief to cattle, only such as you kill to eat. You will find people that belong to the synagogue of Satan, who have shaven crowns. Be sure you cleave their skulls, and give them no quarter till they either turn Mohammedan or pay tribute. While the grass, green things, and trees here symbolize those with the seal of God, it is remarkable that Abu Bakr commanded his men not to hurt literal grass or trees as well. Those with shaven crowns sound like some class of monks, as the Roman Church had robbed the law of God of its seal by tearing out the seventh-day Sabbath and replacing it with their Sunday. They are appropriately described as those without the seal of God. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. As the language thus far has been figurative, so it must be here also. The nation of Christians who were the subject of this plague were to be tormented 5 months, but not politically slain. In this symbolic context, 5 months or 150 days symbolize 150 years. Here then is described a 150-year period during which Islam tormented the Eastern Roman Empire, but failed to kill it or conquer it politically. When did this 150 years begin? Evidently not before they had a king over them. Incidentally, locusts are native to Arabia and actually swarm for a period of 5 literal months. The Saracens' constant incursions into Roman territory and their frequent assaults on Constantinople were an unceasing torment to the idolatrous Romans. Their charge was to torment for 5 months, but not to kill. The marvel is that they did not. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. This, of course, is the same death as in verse 5, political conquest. Such was the misery of the Byzantines, caused by the almost continual war with the Islamic powers, that some would have preferred to be conquered rather than continue under the protracted miseries the war causes. But this was not permitted. Political death fled from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. All the symbols are Arabian, as we learned earlier. These locusts were Arabian men. Apostate Rome was suffering this trumpet, and the Roman word for locust is cavaletta, which means little horse. Horses are native to Arabia. Arabia is legendary for horses. The Arabs' military force was chiefly formed of cavalry and archers. The Arabians had many victories in battle. Arabians also wore turbans, as it were crowns. Incidentally, though, the Arabian warriors had manly beards, Speaking of the Arabs, Gibbon wrote, "He is seldom provoked to laughter. His only gesture is that of stroking his beard, the venerable symbol of manhood, and had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions." The Arabian warriors had long hair. The Antar poem written at the time of the Arab invasion reads, "He adjusted himself properly, twirling his whiskers, folded up his hair under his turban, drawing it from off his shoulders. His hair flowed down his shoulders. We will hang him by his hair." And also, the book of Psalm chapter 57 and verse 4 says this about the teeth of a lion. "My soul is among lions, and I lie even among them that are set on fire, even the sons of men, whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongue a sharp sword." The very weapons that they used were spears and arrows. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Here apparently military breastplates of iron as a representation of strength according to Daniel chapter 2 verse 41. Incidentally, some Arabians wore breastplates. Eliot claims that 3 Arab authorities confirm that the Saracens wore iron breastplates. And also, let's look at the book of Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 13. "Behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariots shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled." The Arabian cavalry moved swiftly. Winged locusts are native to Arabia. Verse 10 says this, "And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months." We already saw what the scorpions were, but now notice they have stings in their tails. Notice the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and verse 15. "The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail." A tail is one that teaches lies. To those who were overrun, the enforced teachings of Muhammad were as a scorpion's sting. As the preceding has been symbolic, so also is this period. The warriors of Islam tormented those they later slew, the third part of men, the Eastern Roman Empire. Verse 11, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath this name Apollyon." As literal locusts have no king, this confirms that these locusts and the trumpets are symbolic. This king's name in Old Testament Hebrew is Abaddon, the destroyer. In New Testament Greek, it is Apollyon, the destroyer. Satan is the desolating king of the Old and New Testament. He is the angel of the bottomless pit, and he rules through his early representatives. From the death of Muhammad until near the close of the 13th century, the Islamic peoples were divided into various factions with no general civil government extending over them all. Near the close of the 13th century, Othman founded a government or empire consolidating all the principal Mohammedan tribes into one grand monarchy, the Ottoman Empire. As Satan is the destroyer, so Othman founded the Ottoman Empire, which became the destroyer of Eastern Rome. The Ottomans were Turks. The Turks came from Central Asia, took over the territory of the Islamic Saracens, and converted to Islam. According to the historian Gibbon, the Islamic Turks first attacked Eastern Rome under the King Othman on July 27, 1299. For 150 years, extending to 1449, the Turks tormented Eastern Rome with almost perpetual attacks over the threat of them, but failed to slay or conquer Eastern Rome politically. In the year 1449, the emperor of Eastern Rome, died, but left no children to inherit his throne, and Constantine succeeded to it. However, he would not ascend the throne without the consent of Amarith, the Turkish Sultan. He therefore sent ambassadors to ask his consent and obtain it before he presumed to call himself sovereign on July 27, 1449. Let this historical fact be carefully examined in connection with the prediction above. This was not a violent assault made on the Greeks by which their empire was overthrown and their independence taken away, but simply a voluntary surrender of that independence into the hands of the Turks by saying, "I cannot reign unless you permit." The gracious approbation of the Turkish Sultan announced his own supremacy and the approaching downfall of the Eastern Empire. Where was the authority of Christian Eastern Rome? After 150 years of torment, it was voluntarily given into the hands of the Islamic power. July 27th, 1299 to July 27th, 1449 is exactly 150 years. Now let's read the book of Revelation chapter 9 and verse 12. One woe is past. Behold, there came two woes more hereafter. The fifth trumpet, or first woe, lasted from the rise of Mohammedanism until the end of the 5 months. The first woe then ended, and the second began. When the sixth angel sounded, it was commanded to take off the restraint to merely torment men, and their commission extended to slay the third part of men. So now begins the sixth trumpet, or the second woe. Until next time, this is John Tinsley with Everlasting Rock Ministries, and always remember, the truth never fails. God bless you.